Okay, welcome to the lab for Physics 4B. This basically will get us started into how labs work in here. We will be using a combination of a lot of things. Okay, most of the time it's going to be simulations. The simulations are going to be either using other resources, like for example, PhET simulations. Sometimes I make my own simulations. I use GeoGebra for most of the time to do simulations. So I'll give you the links for those simulations and basically how to run them and things like that. Most of the times, probably not today, but most of the times what we do in here is we open the session for the lab. We go through about 40 minutes, maybe more, explaining how the lab works and things like that. Then you will have the option to do the activity actually with us, which I hope to do, that you guys do it, because whatever issues that you run into, you fix them. And then you will have the advantage of having your classmates also working with you in here. And I will keep the session open until the time is over for the lab, in which case everybody goes on his or her way, okay? So that's basically how, in a nutshell, labs work. Today, actually, you're going to be doing the actual stuff at home. You're going to need things like, for example, a clear tape. So you don't have it now, you can go to a 99-cent store and grab one. Later on, of course, I don't expect you to do it now. You will need a ruler, okay? And what else do we need for this lab? Let me get the PDF file in here for it. You will need string or thread, okay, to conduct some experiments in here with it. So that's basically the materials for this lab. So this is actually a hands-on lab. This is things that you're going to be doing yourself, okay? So this is not something that's going to be simulated. You're going to actually do these things. If we were in the lab, if we were in person in the lab, this is actually what we would be doing also. So this is basically not simulated. This is stuff that you're going to be doing physically and actually including pictures of what you do and basically reporting and things like that. So if you go to the lab, let me first of all share with you the screen. Let me find it first before I... Physics 4B. Okay, so let me start sharing the screen to explain how labs work in here. And let me make sure I'm in the student view before I share that. Okay, let me share that. Okay, so basically when you come in here and you click on the lab, this week's lab is lab 1 and it's on Coulomb's law. It gives you this prompt, please follow the steps. Okay, as I was saying, everything has a rubric in here, and after a while you will start knowing exactly how things are graded, how I grade things, okay? So you really don't need the rubric. You should start following your own thing. Here is the rubric for this lab. It's at the bottom in here. If you look at it, you will see everything that you need to get them, all the points in here, 40 points for this specific lab. The points will change. Some labs will have probably 180 points. Some labs will have like 40 points in this case. The first thing that is required in the lab report, and we're going to go through the lab reports and see how it looks like, is your name. But before you do that, you're going to actually right-click on this file and open it. Now, how do you open it? First of all, it says save it to your desktop. Do not open it with your browser. If you open this file, chances are, and you're on a computer, chances are, is going to be opened by Chrome or Edge or Safari or Firefox or whatever, or Opera or whatever browsers that you may have on your computer. It's going to attempt to open this file. That is a no-no. The reason why I'm saying that is browsers and the internet in general is stateless, and it's not going to save what you do. So you need to have a reader of some sort, an Adobe Reader or something that can save to your desktop. I understand now that Microsoft Edge, and I think even Chrome, they do save PDF files. Don't bank on it, okay? Make sure once the PDF is opened and you start typing, type your name, save it, and close it and come back and see if your name is still there. If it is there, then that browser or that tool that you're using saves PDF files, okay? I can't see the chat when you guys, when I'm sharing screen, okay? Did anybody make a comment in here or question? I have to stop sharing in order to see what you guys are saying. Okay, as long as, this is Sad's question, as long as you know for a fact, let me go back into sharing that screen, that whatever tool you're using saves to PDF, then you're in good shape, okay? Now, if for some reason it doesn't save to PDF, you can actually still handwrite. Does this answer your question, Harris? Or basically print it to your document, print it to your printer and handwrite it, but scan it or take a picture of it and make sure that you can read that picture once you upload it to Canvas. Because if you cannot read it, I will not be able to decipher what you're saying, okay? As long as it's readable and I can see what you're talking about, then that's fine. Another option is to ignore this PDF completely and use Word of yourself, Microsoft Word or text file or TXT file, that is, or whatever format here it is. It's a good idea to please post it back as a PDF so that the editor does not get basically messed up with the editor that I'm using. Let's say, for example, you have this font that you love or you like, or it's on your computer, and I don't have it. By the time you send it to me, it looks completely strange. I mean, there's a bunch of characters in here that don't make any sense to me. So in other words, make sure whatever you upload, I can read it, because if I cannot read it, I will basically, you missed on everything. So if you're going to take it in handwriting or type it on Word or do something with it and you can scan it, make sure the scanning capability is a good resolution so that it can be seen. Not too high though, because if it's too high, then the bandwidth probably will take forever to upload. And or take a picture with your phone, but upload it so that they can read the content of what you're talking about in here, answering all of those prompts and the questions in the lab report, okay? So you have all the freedom in the world. This form though, which we're going to go through it, is actually convenient if you want to use it, because it's really fill in the blanks, okay? Do the activity and fill in the blanks, upload it. Once you upload it, open it yourself. Once you can see what you have uploaded, you're in good shape. Sometimes what happens is when you open it with a browser, like for example, any browser, it doesn't matter which, you work very hard on it. You collect everything and you thought very hard and you put what seems to be immaculate statements in there to answer the questions. Beautiful. I mean, probably it brings tears to the eye when you read it back again because it's so beautiful. But then once you close it, it's all gone because it did not save. It does not save. That's a waste of time. Okay? You don't want that. So what you do in this case, at least write your first name first. I mean, write your name in the top where it says name. Save it, close it, open it again. See, did the name stick? If it did, then you're in good shape. Continue doing the report. If it did not stick, whatever you're using is not working. So don't waste your time and do whatever you need to do. And then at the end, it did not work. Now, if you still want to use the form and there is a problem, for example, with one of the questions that is not too big enough, or the field, for example, in the table is not big enough, or the things don't match, or for example, the error that is being calculated is wrong in the form or something, and you would want to use a correction, mention it in the question itself and say, you know what, I have an additional document, and append a document to it. So you can add pictures, you can add text files, you can add Word documents, you can add another PDF file if you like, you can add an Excel file, whichever you want to add to supplement your report. For this specific lab report, you're actually required to add a picture to it. So you're supposed to add a picture, otherwise you're going to miss points on the bottom, okay? So you're going to have something in this case anyway, okay? So that's basically, in a nutshell, what this thing is talking about. Everything assignment has a due date. This one is due Tuesday, March 2nd by 11 p.m. Most of my assignments are due by 11 p.m. I don't want you to go to sleep. I want you to go to sleep hopefully before 11, but if you can't, this is the maximum you're going to be working with. Don't leave it to the last second, which brings me to another important point. Yeah, do not leave it till like 10:35 or 10:45 and decide, you know what, I am ready now to submit my lab report. Because if something happens during that time, a power outage, computer problem, runs out of battery, for example, or internet problem or something, or the website is down on Canvas, which happens also too for maintenance things, then you're out of luck. Then you missed the deadline. So try to submit things at least a day before to work out whatever issues there might be, okay? Then you circumvent whatever problems that might happen. Because sometimes you upload something and you think it's immaculate, and then another thought comes to your mind and you say, you know what, I think this is probably what it's meant with it. So if you have plenty of time, you can still go back and make the correction and things like that. Here is the rule as far as the deadlines that I post in that. If I did not grade it yet, that is your grace period. Okay? So let's say, for example, the due date is March 2nd, and you come to March 3rd and you see that it's still not graded. You still did not get a grade for it. At that time, probably you still can go and submit or do something to it and make changes or things like that. If you didn't get a 0 in that lab, that means you're in good shape. So you can rush and get the things finished. If it's graded, it's too late for it to be changed. So that is really how these due dates are working in here, okay? Some of the quizzes, for example, are hard dates. That means that if it's due at that moment, it's due at that moment. You cannot delay it because it's graded right then and there once you submit it. But this one's, you have that period. So you tell me, how many days can I go up past the due date? There are no set dates. It can be 1 day, it can be up to 7 days, basically, up to 5 business days, basically. So depending on how busy and how much I can get around it, and if I get around it and it's graded, it's too late for it to be regraded. So whatever that grade is, it's done. Unless I make a mistake, in which case you can request it to be regraded, that's fine, okay? Does this make sense to you guys?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
So hopefully you guys do this and don't rely on what I just said, because it's probably not reliable. The most reliable thing is the actual date, the hardcore date that is there. So go by that, and you have that little bit of knowledge that can go with you, but don't count on it. Okay, don't make it into like a rule or anything like that. Okay. Again, as I was saying, this is the rubric. Okay. While you're doing your labs, all of them will have objectives and will also have the name. Now, the name in here will be your name and anybody else who worked with you. It is really hard for me to go grading something and then see an exact replica of somebody's work with somebody else's work. Then there is a problem in here. One of you has copied on the other, okay? And that is not integrity, and that is not honesty. That is something that scientists are not allowed to do, and you're not too. Scientists are allowed to work together, though, collaborate, but they have to be upfront with it. I cannot, for example, rely on my friend and get basically his thoughts on something and then use it as mine. If I'm going to publish it or I'm going to say something that I did, I have to include that person in the publication, which is the case in here. So if you worked with somebody, put his or her name in there. I want to see that, okay? As a matter of fact, this is not something that is negative. It's a positive. The fact that you're working with somebody else is a good thing, okay? That is actually something to be encouraged. So you're very much encouraged to do that. Okay, working together is actually a great thing. Putting your name with somebody else, that is actually something. Your name should go first, though, okay? And the name of the person who worked with you, or the people who work with you, hopefully no more than 3 or 4, okay? Don't put the entire class in there because that's not going to work, okay? So 1 plus 2, I mean your name plus 1 plus 2, These are the people who worked with me. I go to the reports of the other person. Now I see the data match and probably even the answers match. I don't have a problem with that. Both of you will get your credit. If this person missed the question because chose not to work with everybody else and had a different thought that turned out to be wrong, that's on his or her watch. You guys are not responsible for that. Do you guys understand how this works? You have to include your name and that of everybody else. So that's important. You lose that, you're going to miss points in there. For the objective, it's a good idea to leave that toward the end. But don't forget it. The objective also has a structure. It needs to be observed. At least 2 sentences, okay? But don't make it into like a long journal, okay? 1 paragraph is plenty. This is basically your hypothesis. This is what you want to get into, okay? What you want to do. Now, every question is worth 2 points. Don't forget the units. If you're going to be talking about something in there, it has units, do not forget the units. And this lab, it's a quantitative lab, qualitative lab more than quantitative, but if you have quantities that are measured, don't forget the units. And also complete sentence. If the question asks you, for example, was the error too high? Was it greater than 5%? You don't come in there and say, no, that's not acceptable. You have to tell me the error was so-and-so and it's less than 5%, which renders that this lab was conducted in if the error is more than 5%, you say the error was so-and-so and it's more than 5%, and this is probably due to so-and-so and so. So, in other words, do not answer the questions with a yes or no, or I agree or don't agree, or they seem to be fine, or don't. You have to be verbose, okay? You have to teach yourself that you're doing science and you need to address things in a more descriptive and clear fashion to the question that is asked. Okay, every question is worth 2 points. You miss stuff, you have this points. You miss the whole point in there, and you have this many points. Again, sketches in this case, for this particular one, it's worth 3 points. Usually graphs are worth about 6 points. Okay, there is a graph, so this one is not. It's just a sketch of your setting in here. And then questions, more questions, a table depending on the number of cells. In this case, it has 8 points, okay, for all 8 entries. You miss some, you get this much. You miss completely, and this is how much you get. And then the conclusion. The conclusion needs at least 3 sentences or more. Essential components in the conclusion are numbers. As part of the conclusion is you tell me your results, okay? For this lab, probably you don't have a lot of numbers, but down the road, I insist on 2 numbers to see, the results and the date and the errors, okay? And you have to list actual numbers in there, in the conclusion. Usually it's a paragraph, it's longer than the objective, and it connects back to the objective. As a matter of fact, in your conclusion, you need to see, did you meet your objective and how, and if not, and things like that. So the conclusion is actually a big deal, okay? So you have to really tell me that you learned something from there, and you don't tell me I learned from you don't use the I at all, okay? So we conducted, the experiment resulted in, so talk in the 3rd person sense or the we, but do not say that I, okay? Or the word students also does not really work in here, because you're not a student, you're a scientist now, you're doing experiments, so you have to address that. And you don't say I as a scientist did. We say we did, or we say the experiment resulted in. Okay, so try to use the verbose that is appropriate. Like I said, in this lab, there is a picture that is required to be uploaded. Okay. So again, I went a little bit in detail this time around with the rubric. As you go around together, you're going to see the different rubrics in here. Again, I'm going to right-click on this one, and I'm going to save link as in here. I'm using Firefox, by the way, on this computer. And it's going to tell me where do you want to save it, so I can save it and so on. So I already did that, so I'm hoping that you guys can do it. So I'm going to stop sharing that screen and share with you how that looks like. Any questions before I do that? Okay, Sal has a very good question right now. Once I grade the first lab, I will ask those who turned it in and get the perfect score to ask their permission if they can allow me to share their labs. If they do, I will share it. But if you do follow the rubric, okay, and during your lab report, which is March 2nd, we still have plenty of time, okay? We still have, what, about 2 weeks for that? So you can ask during the lab sessions that, hey, I did my lab report and I have a question about this one, does it work or not? If we get together to meet together, which is possible, we can meet to have sometimes off, okay, not a lot of them, especially during weekdays, but on Friday I have a lot of time off and maybe even the weekend. If the question was general benefit, okay, to everybody else, I will record the session and post it later on to the benefit of everybody saying, okay, so-and-so, for example, Sad had a question about this question in the lab, and here is a recording for it, and maybe you should look at it to take advantage of it, okay? But usually the first lab, my grading for it is kind of with a lot of comments also, and constructive comments also to make sure that your lab next time around is better. And there is a little bit of leniency, but down the road, the grading will be stricter because I expect you to go through the comments and read each and every one of those comments and make it better. Even if you get the, let's say for example, the question is worth 2 points, and I give you 2 points, but I still have issues with the answer, I will make comments in there so that you can come back and later on, next time, you address those and fix them. Does this answer your question a little bit? Obviously, it's going to be clearer the more we move into this. Okay, so let's get into this lab. Let me pull it first. And let me share with you the screen. So this is lab 1, okay? This is physics 4B, and this is lab 1. As I said before, the first thing I need to do in here, write my name. My name is DJ, okay? And I worked with SAD, for example, okay? That's an example. Or also we had actually help from Stephen also, Cheney. Okay, gets smaller, but that's fine. I can read it because when I open it, I can click on the field and it's going to show me everything. Okay, so that takes care of this. Okay, so that takes care of that issue in there. Okay, it's a good idea to save it now. I'm using Adobe Acrobat Pro. Probably you don't have that. If you do, then it's actually a good editor. If not, then any reader would do. Any Acrobat reader would do. And actually provided you in there with a link on how to download the Acrobat reader. Okay. So try not to start on the objective immediately. Leave the objective for later on. But don't forget it, okay? Because I have seen situations where people do that and they do a beautiful lab, except at the end they forgot to go back and do the objective. So make a checklist. Go back to that rubric and make sure you check every single item in there. Did I put my name? Yes, I did. Did I put the objective? Leave it blank. I didn't do it yet. I'm going to move. Did I answer question 1? Yes, I did. Did I answer question 2? So now it looks like I have checked everything except the objective. Now I have to go back and fix the objective, and I'm done with it. Okay. Labs are crucial for your grade. Okay. They're a great percentage of your grade, so do not take them lightly. Okay. And they are crucial in your learning too. So they are for physics. If we don't measure it, it's not physics. That's why I kind of make a big fuss over it. Okay. Anyway, so I have a question in here. I'm going to answer it and then move on to the next question and answer it, this question and answer it. I have a chart in here that I'm supposed to draw, okay, based on my observations. I'm going to do, remember this one is worth 3 points today. And I have other activities, how to discharge this thing in here and how to start again and how to make different signs and how to do this experiment. So basically, and now it's giving me a table. So this is the table in here. At this point, you summarize your observation and include there are 2 kinds of basically tapes. You need a clear tape, like I said in the beginning, and you need a ruler for this particular lab. Not all labs have that. And you need string. Do I have a string in here? I don't see any string in here right now already, but you will need it for yourselves to finish this part here. And the U type, and the U type, what kind of interactions you're going to see, what kind of between the L and the L, what kind of between the U and the L. You probably guessed it that this will be attractive, this two will be repulsive. And the U and partial U, so it's probably going to be weaker interaction, repulsion. And then force and distance, the force increases with distance or decreases with distance. And in here, same thing when the different signs. And in here, distance, effects of distance. No, electric force direction. This is the direction, I'm sorry. Is it along the same line or perpendicular or something like that? When we saw in the lecture, it was along the line. And in here, the effects of the distance, as I was saying. And then you come in here into the conclusion. Don't forget to connect it to your objective. So this lab is actually a little bit easy in terms of the actual reports, but it's the stuff that you have to do in this lab that matters. I'm going to stop sharing that screen unless you guys have a question right now. Okay. I'm going to switch cameras to a different camera where I can try to do these things with you guys. First of all, let me switch cameras. Once I switch cameras, I really have to remove probably the background in here. What is the background in here? None. Okay. So what you see in here, I can't see that. Oh man. So what you see in here is this is a cutting board. I use it for everything else, okay? Is the tape, okay, that I was talking about. You need clear tape, okay? So you need one of this, and you need about 20 centimeters. It tells you in the instructions in there, you need about 20 centimeters, okay? So this is about 20 centimeters, according to my ruler, okay? That's why I need the ruler in there. So that's about 20 centimeters. I'm gonna cut it, okay? This is about 20 centimeters. And I'm going to make the end so that it's easy for me to pick it up from. And basically tape it to the surface, hopefully smooth surface. Okay, I don't know if you guys can see that or not. This is the end that I can lift this thing from, okay? But this is going to serve as a base for what I need later on, okay? So I'm going to take another one in here. I don't really need the ruler for the second one. I'm going to just, because it has to be about the same length, so it's going to be slightly more than this one. And I'm going to cut it again, okay? And put the same thing in here. And place it on top of the first one. Okay, once I place it on top of the first one, make sure it's smooth. And here is what the instruction is telling you. You're supposed to lift this one from one end. Okay, and now connect it to the edge of your desk. I'm going to try to mimic this one as being my desk right now. Once I bring my finger close to it, I should see some interactions in here, okay? That's what you're supposed to be recording. That's what you're supposed to be doing. Does everybody understand at least how to make these things?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Very good. So if you guys have your clear tape and a ruler and a string, you are ready to this lab, okay? If you don't have them ready, you can get them whenever you have, and you have until March 2nd, okay? And to document your observation. For example, one of the questions, I think it's question 1, what happened when you bring, okay, I think we need to switch cameras again. Let me put the background in here because it's kind of ugly background behind me. I don't want you guys to be scared from it, okay? And let's switch cameras. Okay, so again, you're supposed to complete this activity. Like for example, in here, if I bring this one, can I do it again? Sometimes it doesn't work the second time around. So basically, it's hanging like this. If I bring my finger next to it, you're supposed to document these observations, okay? I think it lost charge right now because one of the things that you're supposed to do to discharge it is you wrap your finger around it and then it's supposed to discharge it. So this is completely discharged, okay? So this is an L type, then you're gonna make another one and then check the repulsion when they are of the same type and when they are not. So to make sure that they are of the same type, run them against the same tape one time. To make sure that they're against one another, you peel them from each other. And then you're going to check that. You're going to try to check the distance. How are the effects of the distance? What is the effects, for example, of discharging a little one of them, like I was showing, okay? Don't completely discharge it, because if you discharge it, so now it's no charge, so there will be no interaction. So make sure you discharge it a little and see the effects now of less charge on it, okay? At the end, you're supposed to come up with the similar stuff that we did in lecture about Coulomb's law, stating that charges of similar type basically repel, charges of opposite sign attract, and the force should be along the direction of the forces. It's also the more charge you have, the stronger the force. And of course, the closer they are, the stronger the force. The further they are, the smaller the force. The sketch is exactly the force as a function of distance, which you're supposed to do. Does everybody understand what is expected in this lab?
So far, so good.
Okay. Well, that's your lab. You guys don't have any questions, or if you have any questions in the future, that's fine. You can ask them, send me a message. My preferred way of messaging in here, by the way, I didn't mention that, is through the inbox of Canvas. So you go to the inbox, message, and send me a message from there. I am available at least 4 days of the week, but please allow for the fact that I might be teaching, so I might not get back to you immediately, but usually I'd like to answer immediately to your questions. So Friday also, sometimes I have meetings. I know I'm involved with another physics club somewhere else. I know I'm involved with the STEM center here too. So I'm involved with quite a few activities. So also Friday, especially if we need to meet, that is a good day to meet, okay? So that's something that we can do together. And also the weekends, I usually respond, but if I don't respond, please respect that, because sometimes Saturday morning I actually play soccer. If one of you is interested, we play here in Redlands, okay? Some of my students actually, they continue to play there from other places. So Saturday morning, it's probably I don't respond quickly because of the fact that until noon I'm tied up in the soccer field. But anytime after that is fine, okay? Sometimes I answer, sometimes I not, so, okay? So that's how this works. Any question before we?
So just like to understand, like for the lab we meet, so you could explain first the lab and after that we leave? Or how that's gonna go?
No, the labs, this one, we go through the lab detail, all of the stuff that like the demo I was doing in here for you guys. For the simulation, I also go through the simulation and things like that. And usually it takes anywhere about 40 minutes, yes. And then we leave the session open for you guys if you are working those simulations to ask questions, and we work out the problems in that. Until the lab starts at 5:10, then I end the session. I end it sometimes when everybody leaves. Okay, let's say, for example, by 3 o'clock or 3:30, everybody decides, you know what, I'm done, I'm good, I'm going to write my report later on, but I'm done right now. But if everybody leaves by then there is no point for me to keep the session open. Do you understand? But as long as there is one or two people working, we're still open. That's how it's going to be working. So the first, because the lab is for you guys to do things, not for me to do things, okay?
Okay.
But I will guide you through it to make sure you do it right. So that's really how it's working. The first, give me about half an hour to 45 minutes, basically go through the details of the lab, what you're supposed to be doing and things like that, and fix whatever needs to be fixing if there is issues with the links and things like that. Once that is done, then technically you could say, you know what, I have everything in the wrap right now, so I'm going to leave and see you next time when we have a class. And also, or by the time the lab is over.
Okay, thank you for answering.
No problem. I know somebody is asking about 4C. It is identical for labs. This is true for all of my labs, okay? Including Physics 11, which is not offered this semester, where I taught it in the past. That is also the same thing. Whenever I'm doing labs, even if we are in classroom, actually, when we're doing in-person labs, we spend about 40 minutes, 45 minutes basically talking about the lab and the settings and getting the materials and making sure that the setup is working. And then you're left on your own to basically do the experimentation and collect your data and start writing your reports. By the time the lab is over, you're supposed to be finishing your lab report. So this is just borrowed from the labs. As a matter of fact, my simulations are replicas of what you guys do in the actual lab. If we walk tomorrow and they tell us, you know what, Mr. Biden said that everybody goes back to school. You should not see much difference between what we do online and what we do in classroom. Okay? Okay. Yes, Patrick.
Going back to the lab, does the you said the tape has to be clear, correct?
The tape has to be clear, yes, for this thing to work. I tried it with not the masking tape. I didn't try it with the masking tape, but those did not work well. Where is the other tape? The electrical thing that is used, not electrical. It did not work well. So it has to be the clear tape. You can get it from a 99-cent store if you like. Okay. You need a ruler. And you need a string, okay? If you don't have a string, you can use a thread, okay? Because at some point you're going to connect them and bring them to one another and things like that. So you don't want to be touching them and neutralizing them yourself, canceling the charges of them.
Sorry to interject, but does it matter if the ruler has to be clear like yours that you had just showed?
No. As long as you need about 20 centimeters. If you make it too short, actually you can rough it. You can come up with a rough number. It doesn't, the distance, the 20 centimeters is just to give you room so that you can see your observation clearly. So if you make it 10 centimeters, it's going to be hard observations. You're not going to see much, okay?
Right.
So any ruler will do.
All right. Thank you for answering my question.
No problem.
Thank you.
No problem. Anybody else? Don't forget to include a picture of your setting, okay? So once you're doing it, beautiful, it works fine, take a picture of it. If it doesn't work, also, you need to tell me why it did not work. That's part of the experimentation anyway. Not all experiments work. Yes? So, if any one of you guys is ready to work now, I'm going to leave the session open. And going to stop the recording though, okay? And if you guys have any questions, just speak up and say something, okay? Because I will be probably walking around. If you want to go, you can go now too.
Quick question. So since we are taking a picture, is Adobe View the only thing that could let us insert pictures?
No, actually, you have to attach the picture by itself, and it can be any format of the picture you like, okay? Preferably JPEG or PNG, but any format of a picture would work, okay?
I see. Okay, thank you.
JPEG, no problem. As long as it's a JPEG. Don't send it in a RAW format, though, because then I think I have Adobe Photoshop that can open those things, but I'm hoping that you can send something lighter. Okay. If you guys don't have any questions, I'm gonna, like I said, stop the recording. And if you don't have anything else, then I will see you guys on Monday.
See you Monday, Professor.
Okay.
See you until then.
Okay, no
Thank
problem.
you. Goodbye.
Thank you, Professor.
No
Stay
problem.
safe.
Okay, so you too. Stay safe too. Okay, so the question you have is about the discussions.
Yeah, can you just go over again what you're looking for
That's
exactly?
from the lecture, isn't it?
Right.
Okay, basically, during the live sessions for the lecture, there will be 1 to 5 items of discussion that will be raised during the lecture itself, during the live session itself, okay? You'll be clearly stated that this is an item for discussion. Item 1, for example, item 2, and so on and so forth. This point is to be raised later on. At that point, I expect you to take note of it and to take note of the answer too, so that once the live session is over, you go to the discussion board and basically say the items of the discussion today are, and you start listing them, and basically this is the answers to them, and this is the answers to them. Now, if you cannot make it live, and you happen to have to be somewhere else during the live session, and if I recorded, which is not guaranteed all the time that the recording would work, then you can come back and watch the recording and do the same thing, taking notes and recording your participation in here and answering it. Do not immediately answer the questions, because there might be one coming later. So do not, from the start of the session, go into the comments and start commenting, because that's going to have problems. Now, you cannot see other people's comments until you comment yourself, which means that you should not be focused with what the other people are saying. Now, if they say something that you would want to pick up on and you would want to discuss it with them, you make a reply to their comment. Do not touch your comment, because it will nullify it basically in terms of grading. So that is really how this works in terms of that. Every live session for the lecture will have items of discussion, up to 5. And that is how, for me, to check to make sure that you're actually participating in the class and not falling behind. As I mentioned before, this is a fast-paced course, and if a person decides to take a time off for one reason or the other, it doesn't matter, even if it's justified, they will fall behind and they will have very hard time trying to catch up. That's why I'm trying to make sure that everybody is actually on board from the day 1 until the last day. Does this answer your question, James?
Yeah, so just to clarify, you just want us to reiterate or summarize the items of discussion?
The items only. Do not do anything more or less, okay? Just stick to the items. Like today, for example, the item of discussion was this very same point, okay? How to participate in this class, this is the process. Put it in your own words. There was only one item today, so it was kind of light. Because, as I was saying in the beginning, some of you probably were used to different ways of doing things, and this is my way of doing things. So I'm hoping that you guys will start to adjust. I'm giving that leeway in here to make sure that you guys adjust to this, because I always value participation, even during an in-person class. I do things like this also in person. Basically, what we do prompts that are not quizzes or anything like that. This is something that I want you to redo when you go home and bring it back. So that's how we usually do that. And if a person is not attending at that time, they will lose on participation also. Because it's not fair for somebody who's actually working very hard trying to follow the course, and somebody who is basically taking his or her time and at the end basically gets something and, I don't know, lucky enough to do things and get something with it. So that's participation is always a big deal in my classes, whether in person or online. So that's basically why I'm doing this, especially for this class, especially for 4B. Okay.
That helps. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Rami and Patrick, do you guys have any question for me?
Oh no, everything seems pretty clear.
Okay, so you're working on this lab or you're done?
I'm done for today. I'll probably start the lab later today.
Okay, so I'll see you Monday then. How about you, Rami? Okay, sometimes people have difficulty with sound or with connections or something like that, and sometimes people will probably step a little outside of the computer. So I'm going to stop the recording again.